What's going on there, Pickers and Grinners? Tom here. Today, we're diving into some Dickey Betts solo pieces that hit you right in the soul, right in the feels. And we lost a guitar legend recently, one of my guitar idols. Been a big fan of playing Dickey Betts style. It sounds like he's a really complicated player. Like he's got a lot of fast stuff going on. He's got a killer tone. It can be rather intimidating to approach playing somebody like Dickey Betts' style. But over years of playing his style, copying his mannerisms, and trying to get close to his tone, I've learned that it's not as hard as people make it out to be. And I mean that in a great way, in that you can take some seriously good licks away from Dickey Betts, use them in your playing, and you're going to sound like a Class A guitar player, a world-class player. And so I want to kick it off with one of his best techniques, Soulful bends, making it sound like he's doing a lot more than he really is. And he used the second pentatonic position. So right here, a great example, he used 3 strings of this position in songs like Southbound and others. And here's just a great example of that. So that'd be the opening solo. But then watch how he does a similar solo in the second part of the song. Sounds something like this. And I love those solos. 1, for the tight, fat sound he's getting out of his Les Paul. 2, for the bluesiness. But did you catch the simplicity? Blink and you won't miss it. I promise you. He just hung out right here. And that's why I love playing like this, because you can make a great sounding solo without being so complicated. I can almost think of like Dickey Betts being the master of simplicity. And he made simplicity sound complex. That's because this stuff might be easy for you to learn and apply initially, but to truly master it takes a lot of time. Now, getting a feel for these bends. What I love is the bends around this E string here. Just raw blues. Mastering the bends of this position. You can bend up on the E string, on that third finger and the first finger. And you can also do the B string here. Very common blues technique. And you can use that in any second pentatonic position on the fretboard. Doesn't matter if we're in A, C, E, wherever. Any second position. And Dickey Betts made a living out of this position. So a great example is bends like that. Now another thing would be, how does he get that lovely sound? Aside from having a Les Paul, there's another way to get that sound, and it's by changing how you hold the pick. And the way I like to hold the pick is tilt it more in my hands. So I don't have the pick perpendicular to the string. That creates a really rigid sound. But if you want a fat, woody blues guitar sound similar to Dickey Betts, when he lays into these notes, you find when you hold that pick at more of an angle, it glides along the string. You get more air and resonance out of the guitar, so the note sustains better. And you can play this with a subtle palm muting to get a really fat sound. I just love doing that. And so the other day I was actually laying into a solo using this exact technique. And I love using this technique. I probably overuse it. I'm a little addicted to it. We were doing a blues in C. And it was... And then I come in right here. So something like that, but just hanging on those notes, those bends, it's like you're riding a surfboard. Oh, and that's all coming from altering just my picking technique. Gives me a much better tone, closer to what Dickey Betts is doing. Now, another thing I love about Dickey's playing, we haven't left the second position here, making an entire living out of this position. Bending and then playing notes that are right next to each other. So utilizing those notes, and these notes is part of the scale. I believe that's 5 notes. Dickey Betts made 5 notes a living. He made a living out of 5 notes. And here's what I mean. So we got this solo. So I'm just making up solos around those 5 notes. And you can be a much more valuable guitar player. You can sound a lot more world-class by learning how to control your bends and just play around those 5 notes. Oh yeah. And then, so instead of playing that, like that's just the single notes. That's the gradual evolution of those 5 notes into something that sounds really bluesy. So don't be afraid to experiment around with... And your head should move with it. It's almost a standard natural reaction. So I love that about Dickey's playing. Now, another thing that's really cool is combining some major minor-esque play styles in the same position. We haven't left here. Oh yeah, going up to that 3rd position. Just, once again, leveraging 5 or 6 notes. And playing bends with those notes. Oh yeah. That is very cool. Another thing Dickey was really good at, just sticking with the bend train, but let's look at something like Ramblin' Man. That ending solo. And it goes on and on. But do you see what I did there? I didn't play all around the fretboard. No. I just sat right here and I played 5 notes again. Just 5 notes. That's 2 notes being used right there. And if you want to count the bend, 3, fine. There's those 5 notes, right? That's it, 5 notes. So he's playing these phrases of 5 notes and mastering them, just like he did with the other scale. Isn't that fascinating? And he's making them sound good. So he's playing them with incredible amounts of feeling. And you'll find this goes on throughout watching all of his solos. He has these patterns of 5 notes and he hangs out around these areas and he makes them sound different every time. So I love how he does that bend. It's so raw. And that's once again with that pick tilted a little bit. Another thing that's really cool about that is Dickey lets his guitar shine through. He doesn't try and overpower the song. He's playing phrases that fit, and he lets the fatness of that guitar dominate the sound. He's letting it sing, letting it fly. And that's what you should do too. Something to try that's a little different. Instead of trying to be the fastest player out there, try and be the most soulful player out there. The crowd will love you. They'll love it. All right, so sticking with Ramblin' Man, going into a little bit of this major solo. What in the world is Dickey Betts playing? And there's another technique he likes to use with these major soloings, sticking around one of his favorite positions, that second position, but then he'll combine it with the first position and putting those two together with some bends. So when you look at the pentatonic scale and how Dickey's using it, it's almost like we're using an abridged form of it. A lot of times you'll hang out right here. See, I'm just using that right there. Then he'll throw in one of the classic major scale soloing notes, that B string of the first position, second finger. That gives it a little bit of a... And one of the things that really helped me in my playing was utilizing this note well. Can give your major solos a whole lot more flavor. So looking at Ramblin' Man, that first solo, I have no words. Another technique he likes to use is these sliding techniques. You see, like, that's another pattern of 3 or 4 notes that sound really cool together. These walkdowns. These walkdowns are so important to his style. These walkdowns are incredibly important to playing like his style and furthering your playing too. These walkdowns are incredibly important to mastering his style. So all I'm doing, sometimes you'll end up barring. And it gives you a doubling effect, like you're playing more notes than you really are. Triplet style. So you're not having to play incredibly fast, but it sounds like you're playing really fast. So it sounds like I'm doing a lot there, but I'm really just hanging out around 1 or 2 pentatonic positions. And so bridging this with another classic Dickey Betts technique, the slide and pull off type move. Hear this a lot in some other song. I just love that technique. It's just a few notes. Once again, 3 to 5 notes. And he'll play that run, and then he'll do something like this. And then it sounds really fast, and you're left saying, what? That's all me just combining that move with the doubled notes that I showed you. The triplet style. So we've got a few techniques that are really cool, and you can see this overarching theme of 5-note patterns that Dickey's playing. And it rings out true throughout his entire repertoire. This is Dickey Betts, and Dickey Betts is playing like this. And he's not making it overly complicated. He's actually quite simple, but he does so many variations of these things, and that's what makes it sound complicated. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. A little bit more of a flavor profile on Dickey Betts playing like this. If you enjoyed this and want to see more stuff like this, I'll be happy to make another episode. Just love playing that fat. Oh. Oh, yeah. I'll see y'all in a future episode.